This is not your typical isekai bullshit. This is the most ruthless, blood-soaked power fantasy you'll see this year. Stay till the end, or you'll miss the moment our heroes become villains. Let's fucking go.
Aragi Kai lives a secret double life, and it's taking a brutal toll on him. Every night he works an exhausting and completely illegal assassin job, so when he drags himself into school the next morning, he's barely functioning. The popular kids hang out and joke around, but Kai just walks past them without a single glance. Even when the class leader, Maito Shuji, greets him, Kai doesn't bother responding. To the other students, Kai looks cold, rude, and impossible to approach, so most of them simply ignore him. Inside the classroom, the atmosphere is loud thanks to Arashi, the arrogant delinquent who demands everyone respect him. Kai has no interest in playing along, which immediately irritates Arashi. When he tries to shake Kai awake, he gets shocked by how quickly Kai reacts. With a single motion, Kai frees himself and shuts Arashi down with nothing but a light squeeze of the wrist. For the first time, the bully realizes he might have picked a fight with the wrong person. But as soon as a girl calls him noisy, Arashi goes right back to acting tough, proving he only backs down when a real threat is in front of him. What none of these students know is that Kai's exhaustion and cold demeanor are not personality traits. He spent the night hunting down a criminal the police couldn't catch. It was Kai's blade that finished the job, and that's the life he's been forced to live in secret. But everything changes when Kai suddenly feels a spike of danger, sharp enough to activate instincts he usually only feels on a job. A strange blue light spreads across the classroom floor, and before anyone can react, the entire room is swallowed by a teleportation spell. The students vanish and reappear inside what looks like an ancient stone castle. Massive pillars, cold walls, torches along the sides, and only one exit. Kai is the first to wake up. Instead of panicking, he analyzes the entire room like he would a battlefield, noting cover positions, potential threats, and escape paths. The other students slowly wake up in complete confusion, but Shuji steps up and manages to calm them down. Kai feels relieved. If anyone can keep the class from falling apart, it's Shuji. Just then, Arashi tries to act like the leader again, ordering his lackeys to follow him toward the exit. But Kai stops him, warning that someone is approaching from the other side of the door. He sensed two people, one man, one woman, and he was right. The door opens, revealing a robed girl and an armored old man, both dressed like they walked straight out of a medieval painting. The girl introduces herself as Leonora, Archbishop of the Holy Country of Isekai'd, and the man is Gas, her knight and personal protector. She calls the students hero candidates, leaving the entire class speechless. Leonora explains that they weren't kidnapped, they were summoned. This world is on the brink of destruction because the Demon King's army has pushed humanity to near extinction. Isekai'd has lost countless battles, their defenses are failing, and summoning heroes from another world is their last desperate gamble. When Arashi reacts poorly, Gas instantly draws his sword and proves just how outmatched the students are. Before anyone can even blink, he moves so fast that Arashi ends up with a thin cut on his forehead, a warning that if he had wanted to kill him, he could have done it effortlessly. Fear ripples through the class. The students might act tough back home, but in this world, they are powerless. Leonora apologizes for the sudden show of force, but her tone shifts as she continues. Her cheerful exterior disappears, replaced by a serious and frightening calm. She tells them plainly, if they don't become heroes, humanity in this world will be wiped out. These students, kids who have never been in a real fight, are expected to become the last hope against the Demon King. Many of the girls break into tears. The boys try to deny what's happening. None of them are ready for this, but Kai listens silently. Compared to his life as an assassin, even this impossible situation feels strangely familiar, and deep down, he knows one thing for certain. This is no dream. And surviving this world will be far harder than anything he's faced before. Gas stepped forward, trying to steady the panicking students. He told them that even if everything sounded impossible, they had no choice but to try. Then he dropped the real bomb. There was no way back to their original world unless they defeated the Demon King. The room fell silent. This hit harder than anything they'd heard so far. Kai, however, understood immediately. Gas wasn't just delivering facts, he was trying to give them a reason to fight. People who had lived peaceful, normal lives couldn't suddenly become killers, not without talent, experience, or a strong reason. Arashi stood up again. Blood still streaked on his forehead and snapped back at them, furious that these strangers thought they could control him. Gas noticed that even after being completely outmatched, Arashi's spirit hadn't broken. For a moment, he wondered whether this reckless student could become a valuable fighter, but that thought vanished quickly. To Gas, someone that disobedient was just a dangerous liability. He tightened his grip on his sword, fully prepared to kill Arashi right there. Before Gas could take a step, Leonora instantly crossed the room and healed Arashi's wound. The soft glow of her magic spread across his skin as she explained that what she was using wasn't ordinary healing. It was part of a divine system gifted by their gods. She described it in terms familiar to the students. Essentially, it was just like magic from their own stories. Kai immediately noticed how easily she referenced their culture, which made him wonder whether this wasn't the first time she had summoned people from his world. Leonora then approached Shuji and explained that this divine system was the reason they were summoned. Raising her hand, she activated the power in Shuji's wrist, causing a brilliant sword made of pure light to form in his hand. She told them all that they too would be able to harness this power and awaken their own divine abilities. But she also confessed something important. Summoning them had been a selfish act. Now that they were here, they had no way back unless they helped. She asked them to lend her their strength. Shuji stepped up again, pointing out that even with new powers, none of them could jump into battle immediately. Leonora assured them that Digaris would handle everything. They would be trained, guided, and fully protected until they were ready. At this point, Shuji took control of the situation, telling his classmates that while everyone was scared, the smartest move was to gather information and stick together. The students agreed, rallying around his level-headed leadership. With everyone settled, Leonora began granting them their abilities one by one. Mare awakened telekinesis. Arashi received explosive powers that matched his aggressive personality. Riina gained control over fire, while Yashia unlocked wind abilities. Every student discovered something new and extraordinary within themselves. Finally, Leonora asked if anyone hadn't gone yet, and Kai raised his hand. The moment the divine power connected to him, his vision sharpened. When the process ended, he realized he could suddenly see Leonora's stats in vivid detail. His eyes glowed red as Leonora explained that he'd been given a rare ability known as Judgment, a power that allowed him to read the stats and information of any target. Kai immediately used it on himself, confirming he could analyze his own attributes as well. Meanwhile, Arashi tested his explosion powers and immediately mocked Kai for only getting a new eye color, completely unaware of how dangerous Judgment truly was. Kai quickly noticed how the other students were acting way too confident with their new abilities. They strutted around like they already understood this world, even though they knew nothing about it. Their powers weren't even truly theirs, they were borrowed gifts that could disappear at any time. Kai, on the other hand, stayed calm. He knew he had plenty of skills that didn't rely on magic at all. After everyone awakened their abilities, Leonora told them to rest for the night. Each hero candidate was guided to a private room inside the castle, but Kai wasn't the type to sit still. As soon as the opportunity came, he slipped out through his window and disappeared into the night, determined to gather real information. Outside, guards patrolled the grounds, joking about how weak the hero candidates looked. They couldn't believe these clueless kids were supposed to defeat the Demon King. One guard added that the Saints must be seeing something they didn't. Kai listened to everything and then quietly used his judgment ability on one of them, discovering the man only had basic sword skills. Realizing this wasn't useful, Kai moved on. It didn't take long for him to realize just how fortified the capital was. Thick walls, heavy gates, patrols everywhere. There was no way he could sneak into the inner castle yet. Instead of taking a reckless risk, he decided to wait and gather more intel later. Meanwhile, in an open field outside the city, Riina and her two companions were testing out their new elemental abilities. They experimented with fire and wind, trying to understand how divine protection worked. Kai had been observing them from a distance, hidden in the bushes, when he suddenly felt a strange disturbance. The girls heard it too. Before any of them could react, a massive lizard-like monster burst out of the darkness, drawn in by the magic they were using. Kai instantly activated Judgment. The creature's stats were shockingly high, far stronger than anything beginners should be dealing with. The monster charged straight at the girls. Thankfully, Kai quickly noticed that although it was incredibly strong, it wasn't smart. It only ran in straight lines. Kai threw a knife with precision, piercing through the monster's tough hide and slowing it down. Riina stumbled and fell, and the monster closed the distance, ready to crush her. But just before it struck, the creature froze. A knife was sticking out of its skull, and blood poured down its face. The girls didn't wait around to figure out who saved them, they ran. Kai hadn't planned on helping, but he couldn't ignore someone about to die right in front of him. And if monsters like this were roaming freely, it meant this world was even more dangerous than he thought. He approached the corpse to retrieve his knife, but his instincts triggered again. Someone else was nearby. Kai hid behind the monster's body, scanning the area, but nothing appeared. Deciding not to push his luck, he returned to his room quietly. Only after Kai disappeared did the presence reveal itself, a mysterious cloaked figure stepping out from behind a wall. Their face was completely hidden. They walked up to the monster and crushed its head with one brutal strike, muttering in disappointment about how useless and weak the hero candidates seemed. But then they paused. One of the students had a scent similar to theirs. That student was Kai. The next morning, Gas gathered everyone and revealed the monster's corpse. The students were horrified. Gas explained that creatures like this had been driven mad by the Demon King's influence, making them crave human flesh. If the hero candidates planned to survive, they needed to understand that this was just one of many monsters they would eventually face. Gas then called over Steady, one of the researchers, asking if he noticed anything unusual about the monster. Steady confirmed there were clear traces of sorcery, something only a strong demon could pull off, likely mid-grade or higher. He suspected the demons might be scouting the newly summoned hero candidates to test their strength. Kai quietly wondered what the difference was between magic and sorcery, since this was the first time he'd heard the term used. Shuji asked if that meant a demon was controlling the monster, and Steady explained that powerful demons could easily command weaker creatures using servitude spells. Before he could explain more, Gas abruptly dragged him away. Kai immediately recognized that Steady was valuable for gathering intel and made a mental note to seek him out later. But then another realization struck him. Those eyes he felt on him last night, the presence he barely detected, that must have been a demon. And whoever it was, they were extremely skilled. The thought that a demon could be nearby, maybe even watching them at this very moment, sent a chill through him. He suddenly felt a gaze on him again, but when he looked around, it was just Arashi talking loudly about how they couldn't return home unless they defeated the Demon King. Arashi wasn't planning on staying in this world forever, and the other students strongly agreed. Kai figured it was better they understood the reality sooner rather than later. Leonora entered then, reassuring everyone not to panic. She explained that their powers were new and they simply didn't know how to use them yet. Once trained, they would grow at a rate far faster than the people native to this world, thanks to being from another realm. With that, a week passed quickly as the students threw themselves into heavy training. Kai spent most of his time in the library, reading everything he could. Thanks to his judgment ability, he could understand every written character of the new language, though he still found it strange that they were all able to communicate so easily. Since his power wasn't combat-oriented, he wasn't included in physical training. The library was the only place he could contribute. Despite his search, the library held surprisingly little information about this world's history, culture, or even demons. Meanwhile, the strongest 5 students were becoming obvious. Narumi controlled wind, Arashi wielded explosive power, Kaki specialized in telekinesis, Hashimoto used earth abilities, and Reina commanded fire. But one person stood far above them all, Shuji. His growth was so rapid that he surpassed his sword instructors within days. When Kai used judgment on him, he discovered Shuji's stats had skyrocketed from below D grade to above B grade in just a week. During this time, 2 boys approached Kai and tried to bully him, clearly drunk on their newfound power. Kai instantly disarmed one of them by flipping him onto the ground, making it obvious he didn't need magic to defend himself. As tensions rose, Leonora and Gaz arrived at the training field. Leonora announced that everyone had progressed faster than expected, so it was time to move to the next stage. Narumi asked if that meant fighting the Demon King, but Leonora clarified it was only monster combat practice for now. Even so, everyone looked nervous. The next day, Gas and Leonora led the hero candidates deep into a dangerous forest used for combat drills. Gas explained the area was full of strong creatures, meaning they couldn't stay together as one large group. They would be split into teams of 2 or 3. The students quickly formed groups on their own, leaving only Kai and Kaki unpaired. They reluctantly teamed up. Kai noted that Kaki seemed extremely confident and a little self-centered, acting like she was superior to the others. She even caught him glancing her way. Leonora then announced that this was a special event. The team that defeated the most monsters would receive a mysterious reward. Moments later, the combat drills officially began. As they walked into the forest, Kaki immediately told Kai that her abilities were far superior to anyone else's, so she didn't need his help at all. Kaki told Kai not to get in her way, and Kai simply agreed, letting her handle everything. That response surprised her. She couldn't believe he had so little pride. But before she could complain further, Kai sensed 4 hidden creatures nearby. One of them suddenly lunged out of the bushes, and Kaki immediately activated her ability. Her power, known as domination, allowed her to impose her will on a target, and with a single command, the goblin dropped to its knees. A few minutes later, Kaki was already exhausted. Maintaining her ability drained her mana quickly, and she struggled to stay steady. Kai urged her to finish the goblin off, especially since another monster was already approaching, but she hesitated. To her, the creature looked too close to a human. Kai snapped her out of it, reminding her that it was still a monster that had just tried to attack them. As he picked up a stone, he realized Kaki was just a typical student from Japan, still mentally stuck in a peaceful world where killing wasn't normal. Before either of them could regroup, the remaining 3 goblins appeared. Kaki ordered them all to bow, then complained that Kai wasn't helping. Kai simply pointed out that she was the one who told him not to interfere in the first place. Frustrated, Kaki commanded the goblins to twist their own necks. They obeyed instantly, collapsing dead at their feet. Even Kai was a little taken aback at how decisively she handled it. Kaki explained that the stronger the command, the harder it was to execute. Even so, seeing the twisted bodies grossed her out. Kai, staying as calm as always, tried to ease her nerves. She couldn't understand how he managed to stay so composed without any combat power of his own. Kai brushed it off, remaining calm was second nature to him. He asked if she wanted to retreat, assuming she might be scared now, but she refused, acting proud as ever. Kai saw right through her though. She was trying hard to look fearless, but she wasn't a bad person. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the forest, Narumi and Hashimoto were running for their lives from a powerful monster. With escape impossible, they combined their wind and earth abilities, slamming a massive boulder into the creature, but it barely reacted. They were completely stuck. Back with Kai and Kaki, she drifted into thoughts of her old world. She wanted to grow stronger so she could one day repay her grandfather for raising her. Kai pulled her back to reality, asking if she still planned to move forward and warning that they could easily get lost. The two of them started bickering again, each frustrated with the other's attitude. As they argued, a loud impact echoed across the forest. Kaki instantly recognized the sound. It was Hashimoto. Kai asked what they should do, and Kaki immediately said they needed to help. When they arrived, the monster had just thrown Hashimoto across the ground, leaving her badly injured. Hashimoto yelled for Narumi to run, but the monster was already moving to strike him next. Kaki reacted fast, freezing the monster in place with domination. Narumi thanked her, but she warned that it wouldn't hold for long. The creature was too strong. Kai asked Narumi if Hashimoto was still alive. Narumi confirmed she was, though badly hurt. Kai told him to grab her and get away while they still had time. Narumi hated the idea of leaving them behind, but Hashimoto's condition left no choice. After they escaped, Kai used judgment to analyze the monster's stats. Its defensive power was incredibly high, far beyond what they could realistically break through. It was also some kind of mutated creature, though he had no idea what caused it. Kaki shouted that she couldn't hold the monster any longer. Kai told her that she'd bought enough time already and that they needed to run as well. She agreed, seeing the situation clearly, but her legs wouldn't move. She had drained all her energy stopping the creature. Realizing how desperate things were, Kai pulled out a smoke grenade and detonated it. The thick smoke gave him cover to grab Kaki and slip into hiding. When she caught her breath, Kaki asked what the smoke was. Kai casually told her it was something he made during training. In reality, he had brought it from his old life. With limited supplies, he didn't want to waste anything unnecessarily. It was basic assassin gear, nothing he wanted to admit to her. Kaki apologized, admitting she was the one who insisted they help, and now she was the one who needed rescuing. Kai brushed it off and told her to thank him instead, triggering yet another round of bickering. Kaki wanted to escape, but Kai immediately disagreed. Before they could argue further, Shuji and the others suddenly arrived. Without hesitation, Shuji charged the monster, furious that it hurt his friends. His attack landed cleanly, injuring the creature's hand. Riina followed up with fire magic, not enough to truly harm the monster, but enough to slow it down. The rest of the group launched their attacks in a coordinated strike. All the while, someone had been silently watching the entire battle from the shadows. It turned out to be a veteran assassin demon named Delphus. He observed the hero candidates with interest, muttering to himself that the armored monster never stood a chance against kids who were growing this fast. He particularly admired their composure, especially Shuji's. What was supposed to be just a scouting mission suddenly changed in Delphus's mind. After seeing their potential, he decided to kill every one of them right there. But while he was plotting, Shuji and the others managed to finish off the monster. Delphus grinned, ready to strike from behind the scenes. However, before he could even move, a dagger pressed against his neck. Kai was behind him. The assassin demon froze in disbelief, unable to comprehend how he had been detected, let alone ambushed. Kai moved faster than Delphus could track. In a panic, Delphus tried to think of an escape route, but Kai immediately slashed his legs and slammed him to the ground. Kai ordered him to stay quiet. He didn't want Shuji or the others noticing. He offered Delphus a deal, answer some questions, and he would let him go. Delphus refused at first, but Kai clearly held all the power here. Kai asked if Delphus had been the same figure watching him the night before, explaining that his plan earlier was to force the observer out by letting Shuji and the others fight loudly. But Kai cut to the real point. He needed information, and Delphus was going to provide it. Delphus smirked and refused again. Kai responded by slashing his hands, telling him that cooperation would make this a lot easier. Delphus warned him not to underestimate him, then proved exactly what he meant. He swallowed hidden poison and died instantly, choosing death over betrayal. Kai realized from this that the Demon King's army was going to be far more dangerous and far more disciplined than he initially thought. Kaki suddenly appeared and froze at the sight of the demon's corpse. Kai asked how long she had been watching, and she said she saw everything after he knocked Delphus down. Kai explained that the dead body belonged to an assassin directly under the Demon King, and that the armored monster and even the first lizard monster were manipulated by him. Kaki grew pale, realizing the demon army was actively hunting the hero candidates. She asked how Kai detected the assassin when no one else had sensed anything. Kai decided not to hide it anymore. He admitted his family came from an assassination background, so he could naturally sense someone of the same craft, almost like recognizing a familiar scent. Kaki was stunned but accepted his explanation. Kai asked her to keep the demon's death a secret from the others. They were already shaken from Hashimoto's injuries. Adding more fear wouldn't help. Kaki agreed, but she made a teasing comment about how she didn't know Kai cared about everyone this much. Kai insisted it wasn't about caring, just that they weren't used to this kind of violence. Meanwhile, the hero candidates were gathered around the severely injured Hashimoto. A student named Hano used her healing powers to treat her, astonishing everyone with her abilities. Hano announced that Hashimoto would fully recover in about an hour, easing the group's panic. At the same time, the others were excitedly praising Shuji for taking down the monster. But then Leonora and Gas casually walked into the clearing. The candidates immediately confronted them, demanding to know why they hadn't helped during such a brutal battle. Gas calmly replied that he had been watching from the start. Saving them every time wouldn't help them grow. Shuji pushed back, pointing out that Hashimoto could have died. Gas didn't budge, explaining that risking your life was a normal part of military training. This was the level of combat they would be facing, so they needed to stop complaining. Shuji pressed further, asking how a high-level armored monster appeared when they were told this area only contained weaker ones. Leonora stepped in and said it must have been due to the demon assassin. Armored monsters weren't supposed to be here at all. Neither Gas nor Leonora knew Kai had already taken care of that assassin, but because of the attack, they decided to strengthen security. Leonora turned stern, explaining that at their current strength, they would be wiped out instantly in a real battle. Everyone was shaken. Shuji tried reasoning with her, but she held firm. Getting stronger was their only option. Arashi snapped, refusing to take orders from Leonora. Gas immediately intercepted him and reminded the students that they were nothing more than the country's pawns and defiance would not be tolerated. The tension rose until Shuji stepped in, calming Arashi before things escalated further. Gas was impressed by Shuji's leadership and told the candidates not to worry. As long as they behaved, no harm would come to them. But Arashi wasn't done. He lashed out with his explosive ability, but Gas dodged effortlessly. With one strike, he knocked Arashi to the ground and gave one last harsh warning. If they thought this was difficult, things would only get worse from here. Then he and Leonora left. Arashi stood back up, bleeding and furious, swearing he would one day get revenge on Gas. The next day, after briefly reviewing what happened, Steady hit the hero candidates with a shocking announcement. They would now be fighting monsters inside his research facility. He casually explained that the entire place was filled with creatures he'd been breeding for experiments. Soon enough, the drill began, forcing the students into combat against these controlled but dangerous monsters. Gas observed them closely and noticed something surprising. Despite the intensity of the situation, the students were unusually calm. Shuji tried stepping in, arguing that the monsters were too strong for beginners, but Steady refused to ease up. He explained that Leonora had personally ordered him to stay strict with the training. He also emphasized that when they were alongside their peers, losing simply wasn't an option. The students' willpower, he said, mattered more than anything else. Shuji wasn't sure that mindset alone could change much, but Steady assured him that intense training would allow them to level up, evolve their abilities, and even unlock new powers. Right then, Gas pointed out that Shuji seemed to have developed a new skill, and Shuji was stunned. He immediately asked Steady if he could test it. Steady eagerly agreed, excited to observe the ability himself. Shuji unleashed his new power and in an instant, cleanly sliced off a monster's hand and head. Gas quickly realized that Shuji had become strong enough to handle even armored monsters now. Kai quietly noticed that Arashi seemed to have gained a new ability as well, though Arashi chose not to reveal it. That night, Arashi was already planning something far more dangerous. He intended to kill Gas, restrain Leonora, and force her to reveal how they could return home. Several unhappy candidates sided with him, desperate to escape this world. He approached Narumi, knowing Narumi hated their situation too, and asked him to join. Narumi hesitated, but eventually agreed to support the rebellion. The next day, Kai found Shuji training hard. Shuji admitted he still felt weak and needed even more power. Gas disagreed, saying Shuji was strong enough to defeat half the knights in Digorst right now. But Shuji insisted it still wasn't enough, not to defeat Gas and definitely not enough to protect everyone. Gas asked what Shuji truly thought of Leonora and himself. Shuji answered honestly. He knew they were pawns in a larger system, but he also trusted they wouldn't intentionally harm the students. Gas then asked Shuji the harder question. Was he willing to risk his life until the Demon King fell? Shuji answered confidently. He said he would take on the role of hero, defeat the Demon King, and negotiate for the safety and freedom of the others. Gas wondered aloud if Leonora would allow such a plan. Just then, Leonora and Gas appeared, announcing that Steady would be taking over training while they were away. Steady immediately accepted the responsibility, and the two leaders departed. On their journey, Gas asked Leonora if she was sure this was the right move. Leonora calmly asked why he doubted her. Gas urged her to stop dodging the issue. He revealed that Arashi was plotting something dangerous, and Leonora admitted she suspected the same. A rebellion was clearly forming. When Gas asked about her plan, Leonora said she simply wanted to observe how far the rebellion would go. Gas worried a revolt from empowered hero candidates could become catastrophic, but Leonora remained unfazed. She said they could never defeat her anyway. To crush them completely, she suggested establishing a strict hierarchy and tightening control. She also mentioned noticing other unusual movements among the candidates, but decided to ignore them temporarily. Later that night, Kai was deep in the forest battling another monster. He took it down in the exact same style he used on his first night, only 13 seconds. Using judgment on himself, he learned he had leveled up. Moments later, a tougher monster attacked. His blades couldn't even scratch it, giving him the perfect chance to test his newest skill, a weakness detection ability. Once he located its vulnerable spot, he finished the creature instantly. Although satisfied, Kai knew he still needed much more strength to survive in this world. More monsters came after him, but they were far too weak. Kai realized he needed stronger opponents for real growth. That's when he heard footsteps. Kaki appeared, asking why he wasn't in the dorms. Kai told her the forest was too dangerous at night and she should leave. He was fully used to night battles. She ignored his warning and demanded to know what he was doing out here. He explained he was testing his new abilities. Curious, she asked what his new power was, but Kai teased her instead. Embarrassed, she admitted she was actually worried about him, then immediately tried to take it back, turning bright red. Before either of them could speak further, they saw smoke rising in the distance. Flames. Their dorm was burning. They sprinted back, only to find chaos already underway. The other candidates were fighting off waves of monsters. Narumi looked relieved when he saw them and explained he had woken up to fire everywhere and monsters swarming the dorms. Kai immediately realized the attack wasn't random. It had to be orchestrated by a human, and whoever planned it was still nearby. He told the others to find and capture the mastermind. Right then, Steady appeared on the rooftop, confirming their suspicions. Kai instantly understood how the monsters showed up so suddenly. Steady explained everything with a casual confidence. All the monsters attacking them were creatures from his own lab. He had even enhanced them with special medicine because they were too weak before. Kai demanded to know why Steady would try to kill the hero candidates and what he stood to gain. Steady revealed the truth. He was simply following orders from higher authorities. He had been told to eliminate every single candidate, even if it cost him his current job. He had nothing personal against them, it was just part of the mission. When asked if Leonora was behind it, Steady instantly dismissed the idea, calling her a vixen and insisting she wasn't involved. The real mastermind was the Demon King. Steady confessed he had been a spy all along, and if he succeeded, he would earn a prestigious research position in the Demon King's army. Kai confronted him, questioning how far he had fallen to betray humanity for the sake of studying monsters. Steady coldly replied that monsters existed beyond human logic, and understanding them was all that mattered to him. With that, he ordered his monsters to attack. Kaki tried using her domination power to stop them, but her command shattered instantly. The creatures charged at her, forcing Kai to leap in and save her. Steady became thrilled watching Kai fight, amazed at his unexpected strength. Kai continued battling, taking down nearly a dozen monsters effortlessly. Steady grew furious. He couldn't comprehend how someone with weak powers could be overpowering his creations. When Kai used judgment on Steady, he saw that the researcher's physical stats were pathetic. But what stood out was Steady's own domination ability, far superior to Kaki's. That was why her spell had failed earlier. Steady was shaken, realizing Kai knew too much. With no other choice, Steady activated something he had hoped to avoid. He warned Kai that he was about to find out exactly what it was. Before Kai could strike, a massive red dragon materialized, spewing flames straight at him. Steady's secret weapon, a giant red dragon, had finally been unleashed. It hurled enormous boulders at them, forcing Kai to react fast. He told Narumi to grab Kaki and run, warning another attack was on the way. Kai used his weakness detection skill and located the dragon's vulnerable spot, its neck. But even with precise knowledge, he lacked the strength to strike effectively. Just then, Arashi arrived and immediately attacked the dragon. He bragged about his power, but the dragon retaliated effortlessly. Seeing no other choice, Kai told Arashi they needed to team up. Arashi scoffed, asking why he needed help from someone like Kai. Kai simply explained that he could identify the weak points, but Arashi had the destructive force needed to finish it. The dragon attacked again, finally convincing Arashi to cooperate. Kai pointed out the exact scale on the dragon's neck that needed to be destroyed. While Kai distracted the beast, Arashi launched a powerful strike, hitting the weak point perfectly. The giant dragon collapsed. With the monster defeated, Kai taunted Steady, asking if he had anything left. Steady claimed he still had more monsters, but then discovered Shuji and the others had already defeated every one of them. Panicking, Steady tried to run, but Narumi intercepted him instantly. Kai demanded Steady reveal everything. Terrified, Steady agreed, but the moment he tried to speak, his body turned purple and he dropped dead. He had been cursed to die if he attempted to expose any secrets. The next day, when Leonora returned, the candidates immediately confronted her. She apologized, saying she never expected a weak demon tamer like Steady to cause such chaos. The students were shocked she knew he was a demon tamer at all. They asked why she allowed someone like that near them. Leonora insisted she warned them training would be harsh and that this was simply part of it. Gas added his own criticism, saying the candidates should have been alert enough to notice a nighttime fire. Leonora then shifted the conversation and told them their next destination, the royal capital. They would be featured in a public parade as the nation's new heroes. That evening, the group began their journey and camped in an open field once darkness fell. While eating, Arashi quietly told his group that the 30 accompanying soldiers were weak, perfect for launching their rebellion. He instructed one follower to summon Narumi and his faction. Kai overheard Arashi's plan. He agreed that the soldiers were few in number, but also knew that Gas and Leonora didn't rely on soldiers. They were confident in their own overwhelming strength. Kai approached Shuji privately and said they needed to talk. Later that night, Arashi and Narumi gathered in the nearby forest to initiate their rebellion. But just as they prepared to attack, Shuji and the other candidates appeared, blocking their path. Shuji revealed he already knew everything about Arashi's plan to assassinate Leonora and Gas, stunning Arashi completely. Arashi was stunned that Shuji had discovered his secret plan. The others tried reasoning with him, insisting there had to be a better solution than murder. but Arashi demanded to know Shuji's real plan. Talking wouldn't solve anything. Shuji told him he would become a pawn, defeat the Demon King, and secure everyone's safety in return. Arashi rejected the idea immediately. When Shuji and the others blocked his path, refusing to let him act recklessly, the tension erupted into a physical fight. It was only interrupted when two soldiers stumbled upon them and ordered everyone to get some sleep for the early morning trip. Arashi walked away, furious at what he called their weakness and saying there was no point in talking anymore. The next morning they arrived at the royal capital. Crowds filled the streets for a major ceremony, cheering when they saw the summoned hero candidates. The public clearly placed a lot of trust in them. Inside the castle, Holy Knight Ruse greeted them warmly and told them to rest. The students were thrilled, soft beds, hot baths, and food far better than what they were used to. Kai, however, wanted answers. The castle was packed with guards, so sneaking around was difficult. Still, he spotted Ruse talking to a group of soldiers, praising how strong the candidates were. One soldier worried that bringing them into the capital might provoke demon activity. Ruse dismissed the concern, insisting the candidates were powerful enough to handle anything. Still unsatisfied, Kai decided to explore the town. That night he visited a pub, ordering ale while listening to locals chat about the hero candidates. Most people thought the kids looked too ordinary to save the world. Kai also picked up on something strange. The townspeople seemed more afraid of the church than the king himself. Curious, he asked the bartender for information. Claiming to be new in town, he learned about the Demon King's relentless attacks and his ability to manipulate humans. The bartender also mentioned a recent bombing of a noble estate by demon followers. Kai left the pub thinking that gathering all the candidates in the capital might have been a terrible idea. Suddenly, Kaki found him. Worried, she asked what he was doing out alone. Kai explained he was collecting intel since they knew nothing about this territory. Kaki offered to help, but Kai refused, frustrating her. After some back and forth, he agreed to let her assist. He told her to gather information specifically about the royal capital, and she left to begin her search. What neither of them knew was that someone had been quietly listening to their entire conversation. A man smirked as Kaki walked away. Kai eventually returned to his room after a long night of pointless searching. He hadn't learned much, but he realized a new enemy faction was active. Suddenly, he heard noise in the hallway and found the other candidates gathered. They informed him that Kaki was missing. Since Kai had been staying in a private room, no one noticed his absence either. When they asked if he knew anything, Kai denied it. Shuji concluded that Kaki wasn't in the castle, so they needed to start searching immediately. Everyone split up. Kai eventually spotted her student ID lying on the street. The moment he picked it up, 4 masked attackers ambushed him. But Kai moved faster than all of them, dropping 3 instantly. He cornered the last one and questioned him, pointing out how amateurish they seemed. Terrified, the final spy broke down. Meanwhile, Kaki was tied up in what appeared to be a hidden castle chamber. 2 cult members interrogated her, demanding information about the hero candidates. She refused to speak. Growing impatient, one of them tore her shirt, but they didn't know Kai was already inside, watching from the shadows. A quick judgment scan revealed the men were pathetically weak. Kai was shocked such low-level enemies managed to capture her. He dispatched them both effortlessly. Kaki, exposed and humiliated, blushed with embarrassment. Kai freed her from the chains, but before they could escape, he sensed someone moving at high speed toward them. It was Reigns, the Holy Knight from earlier. He attacked instantly, but both Kai and Kaki managed to dodge. Reigns grinned, declaring he absolutely had to kill them. It was then Kai realized the horrifying truth. Reigns wasn't just a Holy Knight. He was also a general in the Demon King's army. Using judgment, Kai saw just how strong he really was. Reigns was an all-rounder, fast, powerful, and skilled in both magic and swordsmanship. Kai dodged his next strike, but Reigns blasted him with fire magic, nearly hitting him. Reigns lit his sword on fire, ready to finish him. But Kai reacted faster, pulling out his gun and shooting Reigns straight in the head. The demon general collapsed instantly. Kai hated using his gun, especially with so little ammo to spare, but he had no other choice. He realized he needed stronger close combat skills if he wanted to survive in this world. Kaki was completely shaken to see him using a firearm. She admitted it was scary knowing someone from their class carried a real weapon. Kai casually explained it was standard gear for an assassin. She thanked him and explained that her domination power didn't work while her hands were chained. As they escaped, she said the attackers were clearly targeting their class. Kai already knew. His interrogation of the last cult member revealed everything. The cult had orders to kill all hero candidates, using Kaki as a hostage while they hunted the rest. The strangest part of everything was that Kai had not died from the death curse. Steady had died instantly, meaning the spell only worked on demons, not humans. Kai realized something terrifying. This attack wasn't orchestrated by demons at all. Humans were betraying humanity from the inside. Morning was approaching when Shuji finally found Kai and Kaki. Relieved she was safe, Shuji listened as Kai explained everything. The Demon King's cult, the spies embedded in the capital, and the shocking truth that humans were now part of the enemy forces. Unlike monsters, humans couldn't be easily identified. This new threat meant every candidate needed to be extremely cautious. They all agreed not to tell Leonora. She would only dismiss their concerns and expect them to handle it alone. Instead, they decided to gather all the candidates and discuss their next steps. Before they could act, smoke suddenly burst around them and cult members appeared, surrounding every group of students. The attack wasn't isolated, the entire candidate squad was under siege. Kai quickly counted 6 enemies in their area. Their stats were weaker than Rains's, but still formidable. The 6 men charged. Kaki froze them with her domination, and Kai instantly finished them off with precise knife strikes. Shuji froze for a moment, shaken by how effortlessly they killed humans. He tried to protest, but Kai shut him down immediately. These were enemies, hesitation meant death. Just then, another cultist ambushed Shuji. Shuji attempted to reason with him, but the man simply declared unconditional loyalty to his master. Kaki prepared to use her ability again, but Kai stopped her. He wanted Shuji to handle this battle himself. Shuji broke the cultist's sword and urged him to surrender. Instead, the man charged again, managing to injure Shuji's hand. Shuji retaliated, slicing into the cultist's body. The man collapsed, begging, and Shuji chose to leave him to die. But Kai insisted, finish him now or face him again later. Shuji hesitated, but ultimately followed Kai's advice, ending the threat. Elsewhere, Arashi's team had already wiped out their attackers. Arashi finished his last opponent without hesitation, but Riena's group was struggling. They hesitated to kill humans, and many of the girls were getting hurt. Suddenly, Leonora appeared in front of all the candidates. Calm and unfazed, she asked whether she should give them a passing grade for their performance. The cultists were enraged at the sight of her. Leonora stood confidently, telling the students that as her candidates, of course she would come help them when necessary. One cultist mocked her for being alone without her knight, questioning what she could possibly do. Leonora dismissed them with a smirk, calling them pathetic followers of the Demon King and claiming they weren't real threats. All the cultists attacked at once. Leonora didn't even flinch. With a single use of her domination magic, she forced every one of them onto the ground, completely immobilized. Riina noted the similarity to Kaki's powers, but Leonora snapped that her domination was superior in every way: range, power, and precision. When asked why she saved them, Leonora casually reminded them she wanted to pass them for this test. One man grabbed her dress, begging for his life. Leonora simply looked down and apologized, not for hurting him but for letting him live this long. Then she activated her domination again, this time on the hero candidates. Their bodies moved against their will as she forced them to execute all the helpless cultists on the ground. Kai and Kaki watched from afar in horror. Kaki couldn't believe Leonora's power. Controlling so many at once with absolute precision was far beyond anything she could achieve. 12 hours later, the candidates gathered in the hall. Many were traumatized after being forced to kill humans with their own hands. Narumi vowed he would never forgive Leonora for what she did. Shuji blamed himself for arriving too late to help. But Kai pointed out it wouldn't have mattered. None of them were strong enough to resist Leonora's domination. With Reigns, the demon general, dead, the enemy forces would need time to reorganize. They had a window of opportunity. Kai then asked Kaki to come with him. She wondered why, and Kai explained he needed her help to find a way to counter Leonora's domination. To do that, he needed someone with the same type of ability. He asked her to use domination on him. Embarrassed, Kaki turned bright red, totally flustered by the request. The next day, after clearing out the cult, the kingdom held a massive parade to celebrate the hero candidates. The citizens cheered, believing the candidates had proven themselves against the Demon King's followers. When the celebration ended, Leonora gathered them and said they were returning to Temple City Alpha, the place where they had first been summoned. Kai immediately recognized the name and realized Leonora likely controlled that city completely. He asked if she would be accompanying them, but she explained she had other affairs to handle and would leave them under Gas's care. Riina mentioned wanting to return, but their previous dorms had burned down. One girl was so frightened of Leonora that she couldn't even speak. Leonora left with a smug grin, leaving behind a hall full of resentment. Later, Gas led all the candidates toward their new destination. That night, as they set up camp, Arashi and several others slipped into the forest again. Kaki asked Kai if the rebellion was happening tonight. Kai replied that with Leonora gone and only weak soldiers guarding the camp, this was the perfect opportunity to strike. Under these circumstances, he saw no reason to stop them. Kai wasn't planning to interfere with Arashi's rebellion. He simply wanted to observe how everything unfolded. Meanwhile, Narumi lured Gas deep into the forest by claiming he had seen a giant monster nearby. Gas didn't hesitate. Any threat that close to the royal capital needed immediate attention. But the moment he lowered his guard, Arashi blindsided him with a full-power attack. Gas staggered, bleeding, but still standing. Arashi taunted him, admitting even his strongest strike wasn't enough to finish him. Then Gas stepped onto a hidden landmine. The explosion blasted him backward, shredding his defenses. Arashi grinned, revealing the entire setup had been a trap specifically crafted to take Gas down. Even though Gas used mana to shield himself, the damage was severe. Disappointed, Gas told Arashi he never expected him to stoop to an ambush like this. The rest of Arashi's faction surrounded Gas, leaving him with no escape. Realizing how dire the situation was, Gas launched a bright flare into the sky, a distress signal. From far away, Kaki and Kai saw the light. Kai immediately understood what happened. Arashi had made his move. But before the soldiers could respond to the flare, Kai intercepted them all and eliminated every single one, ensuring no reinforcements would reach Gas. Back in the forest, Gas was being overwhelmed. Multiple candidates attacked him at once, and even with his skill, he couldn't withstand their combined power. He eventually lost an arm, bleeding heavily while the others kept pushing. Arashi complimented him mockingly, calling him impressively tough for an old man. Narumi mentioned the distress signal, assuming Gas was just buying time. But Gas calmly said there was no need for help anymore. At that moment, Leonora appeared with a casual smile, observing how cornered Gas was. The candidates froze in shock, none expected her to arrive. Meanwhile, Shuji, Reina, and several others spotted Kaki using domination to restrain a group of soldiers. They were suspicious since Kaki never listened to anyone's orders. But then Kai walked in and claimed she was following his instructions. Shuji was stunned yet again as Kai confirmed he was the one who eliminated all the guards earlier. He also explained that while Arashi's faction handled Gas, he neutralized the soldiers. The whole picture finally clicked for Shuji. Kai told Shuji to focus on finding Arashi instead of interrogating him. Shuji and the others immediately rushed to Gas's location. There, Leonora informed Gas he was clearly losing. Gas accepted his fate, acknowledging that age was catching up with him. Arashi stepped forward, insisting he wouldn't run away after coming this far. One of the candidates asked Leonora if she was mind controlling them. Leonora clarified that domination required specific conditions. If someone had a large mana pool or knew how to control it well, they were harder to dominate. But candidates who relied purely on raw power with no mana control were the easiest targets. Arashi mocked her, calling her a coward who couldn't win in a fair fight. Leonora simply smiled and declared she would handle them personally. The battle began instantly. Arashi charged, but Leonora was faster. She summoned an enormous boulder, knocking him back with ease. She then manipulated multiple elements, fire, water, air, to attack the rest of the candidates, sending them tumbling. Narumi flew in, grabbed Arashi, and lifted him out of immediate danger. Shuji and the remaining candidates arrived, trying to calm Arashi down. Shuji asked what Arashi expected to accomplish with all this fighting. Arashi yelled that Shuji's peaceful attitude made him sick. Shuji turned to the others, asking if they agreed with Arashi. Reina stepped forward and immediately sided with Arashi. Leonora laughed, amused that they were still arguing among themselves. She mocked them for essentially starting a rebellion. She then asked if they truly expected forgiveness even if they surrendered. Before anyone could answer, she unleashed a massive cyclone that injured everyone on the battlefield. Seeing the group badly hurt, Shuji hesitated, but Arashi urged him not to. If Shuji really wanted to protect everyone, he needed to commit fully or they would all die. Shuji finally understood there was no choice but to fight. Reina and the rest of the candidates prepared as well. Leonora declared she would demonstrate the enormous gap between their power and hers. Not far away, Kaki asked Kai what they should do. Kai replied that they would wait until Leonora started using her domination magic. Once she unleashed it, that would be the moment for him to strike. Until then, they had to trust the others. The battle escalated. Gas, despite barely standing, forced himself to his feet, saying he still wanted to fight for Leonora. She instantly healed him completely, restoring his strength and making him even more powerful. The candidates felt a wave of despair. They had worked so hard to corner Gas, and now he was back at full power. Reina tried to reassure everyone that their numbers had grown, giving them a fighting chance. Leonora confidently told them they could attack whenever they wished. This entire fight, she explained, was nothing but a test. If they couldn't defeat her, they weren't worthy of being heroes. The battle officially began. Gas engaged Shuji, realizing how difficult it was to face him now that he wielded a magical sword. Leonora blasted Shuji with water magic, but Reina managed to cancel most of it with her fire abilities. Shuji took another hit from Leonora's magic, leaving him injured, but he pushed through as the candidates launched their attacks. Nothing worked. Every spell, every strike, Leonora dodged or nullified them without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Kai stayed hidden in the shadows, analyzing Leonora with judgment. Her magic was overwhelming, but her physical defense was weak. One solid hit would be enough to take her down, if not for Gas blocking the way. Arashi yelled for Shuji to ignore Gas and focus on Leonora instead, but Shuji had a bigger problem. His magic attacks couldn't land on her either. A candidate tossed Shuji a steel sword. Leonora smiled, saying he finally looked ready for a real fight. The other candidates were completely useless here. Their abilities simply had no effect on Leonora's superior magic. Even Arashi couldn't fight at full strength without his explosive skill, but Gas's stamina was running low after the ambush, making it an even match. Leonora continued launching ranged spells, preventing Shuji from getting anywhere close. He knew the only way to defeat her was to close the distance, but nothing he tried worked. Leonora admired his speed, noting that very few people in the entire kingdom could dodge her magic like he could. Still, the battle was one-sided. Shuji couldn't touch her. Finally, Shuji charged straight toward her, blowing through her wind spells. Leonora countered with ground and fire magic, but Shuji dodged it all. She realized he was subconsciously using magic like armor. His growth rate was frightening. Even so, she tossed him away effortlessly with another spell. Meanwhile, Arashi was running out of options. His powers had burned out, and without them he had no idea how to defeat Gas. Gas slashed him across the abdomen, sending him to his knees. Arashi was furious. How could an old man overpower him? Gas calmly told him this was his limit, but Arashi refused to accept that. With raw determination, he delivered one final punch so powerful it sent Gas crashing into the ground, bleeding. Against all odds, Arashi won. Back with Shuji, he forced himself up. His aura flared dangerously. Leonora acknowledged his insane stamina but stayed confident. She still didn't think he could reach her, but she was wrong. In the blink of an eye, Shuji was right in front of her, slicing her hand. Before she could process the hit, he teleported behind her. Shocked, she blasted him away with water magic. That's when she finally understood. He had gained instant movement. Shuji flashed again, stopping just an inch from her neck. But before he could land the decisive strike, Leonora gave a single command, kneel. Shuji froze instantly. He collapsed motionless, trapped in her domination. Leonora smirked, saying she hadn't wanted to use her enslavement magic, but Shuji forced her hand. Gas saw her using her trump card and urgently told Kaki to move. Leonora admitted she wasn't planning to enslave anyone today, but with Shuji at her feet, she had no choice. When the other candidates tried to help him, she simply commanded them to stop. They froze mid-charge. She congratulated them and said they'd all get a passing grade. She also mentioned she didn't expect Gas to lose, but he was just a knight easily replaceable. Now that she controlled the candidates, everything was under her authority. Despair spread across the battlefield. No one could resist her power. They were completely helpless. Leonora then revealed the truth. Hero candidates were summoned specifically so she could control them whenever she needed. Without domination to keep them in check, they would eventually become dangerous. Just then, 3 knives flew at her from behind. She dodged them effortlessly and calmly pointed out that she knew someone was hiding. It was Gas. She admitted she'd always sensed something strange about him. Gas stood ready to fight, but Leonora commanded him to stop, and he froze instantly like the others. She continued explaining her magicka when suddenly a gunshot tore into her shoulder. Leonora was stunned. How was Gas moving, let alone shooting while under her control? She fired again, hitting her abdomen. Leonora was horrified. The weapon in his hand, something she had never seen before, ignored her magical defenses completely. This made no sense. Guns didn't exist in this world. Gas explained exactly what it was and added he only had a few bullets left. He didn't want to waste them. Leonora reacted instantly with magic, burning his robe, but the moment she blinked, he vanished. In the next second, he appeared right behind her, pressing the gun to her head. He told her plainly, she wasn't much in close quarters combat, and more importantly, her enslavement magic didn't work on him. Leonora was speechless. It shouldn't be possible, yet Gas stood there, completely free of her control. The truth was that this entire moment was a gamble Gas had planned in advance, and it succeeded. The key was Kaki. The night before, Gas had asked Kaki to use her domination on him. He had figured out a crucial mechanic. The first spell cast on someone always takes priority over later spells. So by letting Kaki enslave him first, Leonora's domination wouldn't override it. On top of that, the divine protection the candidates received made their powers naturally stronger than normal magic. Kaki had been unsure. It felt absurd that her ability could match Leonora's, but evidence had just proved Gas completely right. Gas's entire strategy hinged on one thing, casting Kaki's domination spell on himself first. That single move allowed him to override Leonora's enslavement magic later. It was a massive gamble, but he and Kai had no better options. Now in the present, Leonora finally pieced it together. If Gas wasn't under her control, then it had to be Kaki's doing. And she was right, Kai himself was operating under Kaki's spell, not hers. Kai declared that it was over and prepared to pull the trigger. But instead of executing her, Leonora was suddenly restrained. Special handcuffs snapped onto her wrists, anti-magic restraints, the same type used on Kaki earlier. Leonora demanded to know what Kai intended to do with her. His answer was simple, send them back to their original world and she'd live. Leonora apologized, explaining she couldn't. Her magic only allowed her to summon people, not return them. Kai immediately knew she was telling the truth. Her abilities were purely one way. Kai asked how she planned to send them home after defeating the Demon King. Leonora explained that summoning consumed massive amounts of divine energy, so only their god could reverse it. The god himself would return the heroes home once the Demon King was defeated, but even she didn't sound convinced. Historically, no hero candidates had ever made it back. All previous groups died fighting the Demon King, and any survivors simply vanished. After a tense pause, Kai prepared to execute her until Shuji stepped between them. Shuji explained he only cooperated with Kai because he believed Leonora could send them home. Since she couldn't, Shuji wanted to maintain his hero status and avoid becoming a criminal in this world. Kai asked why that mattered. They were already traitors. Leonora tried smoothing things over, promising to pretend none of this happened, but Shuji cut her off. Killing a Saintess was a massive crime. They never survived the consequences. Most of the candidates sided with Shuji, though Narumi stayed firmly with Kai. Shuji admitted killing Leonora wasn't entirely wrong, but he demanded to know what Kai planned to do afterward. Kai seemed to consider Shuji's point. Then, in a move that shocked every single person present, Kai simply raised his gun and shot Leonora between the eyes. Her body dropped instantly. Before anyone could react, Kai threw a smoke grenade and disappeared into the chaos. The candidates erupted in anger and panic, unable to believe what had just happened. But Kaki recognized this exact outcome because Kai had told her the plan in advance. Hours earlier, Kai had explained everything to her. Step 1, capture Leonora and force a way home. If that failed, step 2 was simple, kill her. Kai knew that once Leonora proved she couldn't send them back, Shuji would inevitably protect her. As soon as that happened, Kai planned to kill her anyway and escape, taking full responsibility for the assassination. To make sure no suspicion fell on the others, he intentionally left a few of Leonora's guards alive, just enough witnesses to blame everything solely on him. He ordered Kaki to point all fingers his way and return safely with the other candidates. Kaki doubted she could pull that off, but Kai insisted she had the strength, and if needed, her domination ability to survive the aftermath. When she asked where he would go, he simply told her not to worry. Far away, inside a dark demon castle, a minion reported his failure to kill the hero candidates. The Demon King wasn't bothered. He knew the heroes would eventually show up on the front lines anyway. To him, the game was only getting more interesting. 2 days later, Kai was hiding in a forest near a city half a day away. Since he had murdered a saintess, he couldn't walk into town openly. He planned to sneak in at night. He needed money, and the first thing he found was a tavern packed with lively people. A man struck up conversation, asking where he was from. Kai calmly lied, saying his hometown was destroyed and he was looking for work. The man suggested becoming an adventurer, an easy job where the guild paid you for completing quests. Better yet, the guild was so desperate for recruits they didn't even check identification. After crashing at an inn, thankfully unrecognized, Kai headed to the Adventurers Guild the next morning. The hall was filled with rough-looking mercenaries. At the reception desk, they asked for his name, age, and hometown. He gave a fake name, Siren, the code name from his past life. He claimed the Demon King's army had wiped out his village. As a newcomer, Siren was registered as an F-rank adventurer. Heading to the quest board, Kai browsed for a job, but trouble found him first. 3 men approached, harassing him just like bullies at the school back home. Kai politely thanked them for the warning and told them to leave him alone. That only made them angrier. One man swung at him, but Kai blocked the punch effortlessly. Shocked, the attacker screamed for Kai to let go. Kai released him, wanting to avoid a fight. Instead, they all charged at once. Kai dropped each one effortlessly, clean, quick, and controlled, and casually walked out of the guild. As he left, he reflected on how weak these adventurers were. Compared to hero candidates, they were nothing. He decided to complete his quest as fast as possible. The scene shifted to a forest where Kai searched for kobolds, the target of his first official mission as the adventurer, Siren. Kai suddenly spotted animal-like footprints on the ground and followed them deeper into the forest. The further he went, the more he sensed multiple presences around him. These creatures were skilled at hiding, confirming his suspicion. They were kobolds. One kobold launched a sneak attack from behind, but Kai sensed it instantly and dodged with ease. He also noticed the kobold was holding a human sword, meaning it had likely killed an adventurer before. Before he could even process that, another kobold leapt from the shadows. Kai dodged again, scooped up dust, and threw it into the creature's eyes. With one blinded, he struck the first kobold across the face, grabbed its dropped sword, and finished it off. The second kobold stared in shock, but Kai closed the distance and eliminated it with a quick knife strike. Using judgment, Kai checked their stats and realized they posed no threat at all. Feeling confident, he decided to hunt more for extra cash. Back at the guild, everyone stared in disbelief as Kai dropped a pile of kobold ears on the counter. He confirmed they were all his kills and casually explained that hunting kobolds was easy. The hard part was finding them. While waiting for his reward, he reflected that while his combat abilities were exceptional, his tracking skills still needed improvement. Rumors spread immediately. Some adventurers whispered he must be a C-rank fighter from another city. Others insisted he was just a newbie. Either way, everyone was stunned. That night, Kai counted his earnings while walking through town. He was surprised such weak monsters could net him so much money. Survival came first, so he decided to stay in the city for a while and build up funds as an adventurer. Connections inside the guild would also help him gather intel. Suddenly, a boy appeared in front of him, radiating strength far beyond the men Kai fought earlier. He introduced himself as Lyle, a B-rank adventurer and the leader of the city's guild branch. Kai responded calmly. Lyle immediately asked if he was the guy who caused trouble with his men earlier. Kai explained the truth: the bullies started it. Lyle didn't believe a newbie could take down his squad. Kai simply admitted it was him. Lyle snapped and attacked, throwing rapid punches. Kai dodged every strike effortlessly. Bored, he finally tripped Lyle, sending him crashing to the ground. Lyle stared in disbelief. Kai explained that while Lyle was fast, his movements were sloppy and full of openings. Furious, Lyle attacked again, but Kai grabbed his arm and slammed him down once more. Kai pointed out that Lyle was used to fighting beasts, not humans. His technique reflected that. Lyle demanded to know why Kai fought his men if he had so much power. Kai repeated that it was a misunderstanding and offered to explain everything. Later at the guild, Lyle publicly apologized and scolded his men for lying. He forced them to apologize to Kai as well. Kai accepted it, saying he didn't mind as long as everything was cleared up. Then Kai had a question. Lyle promised to answer anything. Kai revealed he was a traveler, working as an adventurer only to earn money for his journey, but he had a much bigger goal. He wanted to find a way to travel to another world. The entire guild hall went silent. Lyle and his men were stunned. One adventurer mentioned rumors that hero candidates had come from other worlds. Kai confirmed that's exactly what he meant. He needed a way to reach that world. Lyle admitted that magic of that level wasn't their specialty, but he knew someone who might help. A name came to mind immediately: Elbanakarat the Sage. Kai asked who that was, confused. Lyle explained that Elbenakrit was an elf whose vast knowledge had supported the kingdom for years. Kai remembered seeing the name in books before. Elves were nearly extinct, living deep in isolated forests, rarely stepping into human society. Any elf who did and accumulated great wisdom became known as a sage. Lyle explained that Elbenakrit wasn't just any elf. He was over 100 years old and known throughout the kingdom for his vast knowledge. He was a master spellcaster with an incredible repertoire of magic. This made Kai think deeply. Elves had strong connections to spirits, which made their magic incredibly powerful. Even if a spell for traveling between worlds didn't exist, Elbenakrit might still be able to create a path forward. But then Raka, Lyle's subordinate, raised an important question. Was this sage even alive? No one had seen him in years. Lyle admitted he had no such information and apologized for not being more helpful, but Kai assured him the lead was valuable. Before heading back to the inn, Lyle asked what Kai planned to do once he found a way to another world. Kai simply smiled and told them to use their imagination, leaving them completely confused as he walked away. A week passed. At the guild, Mia handed Kai his reward for another completed quest. Outside, Kai reflected on how much time had passed since meeting Lyle's team and how much money he'd managed to save. Lyle and Raka approached, asking if he was done with his mission and inviting him out for drinks. Kai declined with a strangely somber look. Lyle called him boring and let him go. As Kai walked away, he finally had the information he needed. The sage's full name was Elbenakrit, and he had once served as the kingdom's royal advisor 10 years ago. Now, Elbenakrit lived at the western border, the same front line where the Demon King's army was attacking. With this lead, Kai knew it was time to leave the city and seek out the sage himself. The scene then shifted to Holy Temple City Alpha, where the hero candidates were meeting with Heinrich, the captain of the 8th Night Corps. It had been a month since he began overseeing them after Leonora's death. Heinrich politely asked Mijiji Shuji if he had any complaints, but Shuji said everything was fine. Heinrich explained that the hero candidates were extremely important to the kingdom, so he treated them with respect. Hashimoto Mari thanked him, though she couldn't shake the strange feeling that Heinrich was completely different from Leonora. Something about the situation felt unsettling. Heinrich moved on to the main announcement. At yesterday's meeting, the church had decided to mobilize the hero candidates. Shuji was shocked they were being sent to the front lines. Heinrich confirmed it, pointing at a map and explaining that active battles were still raging at the western border. The candidates would be stationed at a frontline fort. Shuji agreed but reminded Heinrich of his promise to protect those who weren't suited for combat. Heinrich reassured them he would keep his word. Everyone would be given tasks to prove their worth. Mari asked when they needed to depart, and Heinrich told them they were leaving the very next morning. He asked Shuji to inform all the candidates immediately. Later, as Shuji and Mari walked through the hall, she expressed relief that Heinrich had accepted their request so easily. Shuji admitted he was worried they were pushing too far, but everything had worked out. Mari suggested the knights might feel insecure without Leonora's oppressive presence. Maybe that was why they were being so accommodating. Shuji agreed. With Leonora gone, the entire Night Corps was on edge. Mari then quietly wondered what had happened to Aragi Kai. Where was he? What was he doing now? The story then flashed back to the night Leonora died and Kai disappeared. The bishop demanded to know who could have killed her. In response, Nage's Riina dropped the bombshell. It was Aragi Kai, one of the hero candidates. The bishop and guards were stunned. He urgently asked where Kai had gone. Riina said Kai ran away and that he was surprisingly fast for a traitor. The guards whispered among themselves, debating whether they should send an inquisitor immediately or first confirm Leonora's death. Arashi exploded with anger, demanding answers from the bishop. The bishop said he wasn't dismissing their story, but he hinted that maybe all the hero candidates had worked together to kill Leonora. Shuji froze at the accusation. Then unexpectedly, Leonora's own knight stepped forward. He had witnessed everything. He confirmed that Shuji and the other candidates had actually tried to protect the Saintess, but Kai was far too strong and Leonora died because of him. A second knight backed up this claim. With that, the bishop accepted their story. Then he asked the obvious question, was Aragi Kai really that powerful? Shuji confirmed it. Kai had been hiding the true extent of his strength the entire time. The bishop invited them to his chambers to discuss things in more depth and requested one hero candidate accompany him directly. Unseen by the group, Kenzaki Ren had been listening from behind a wall, quietly using her abilities on the knights to steer the conversation. Shuji felt relieved. Her intervention had saved them from a dangerous situation. Now, in the present, Hashimoto Mari asked if he was still worrying about Aragi Kai. Shuji pretended he wasn't, but deep down he was troubled. He knew Kai had taken the entire burden onto himself, sacrificing his own freedom to protect them. Shuji had sworn to protect everyone, yet Kai was the one who carried the weight, and now Shuji felt powerless to help him. Back in the meeting room, Shuji gathered all the hero candidates to announce the new orders. They were being deployed to the front line. Everyone who was combat ready was told to prepare for departure by the next morning. The tension hit instantly. This was no longer training or controlled drills. This was the real battlefield. Nage's Reina reminded them there was no point being scared. They chose the combat group themselves. Hano Shiori asked if they were the only ones going. Shuji explained they'd be heading out with Captain Heinrich and the 8th Night Corps.
Hinzaki Ren asked the question everyone avoided. Any news about Aragi Kai? Shuji explained that the temple had put a bounty on him, sending wave after wave of search parties. No sightings, no clues. Hearing that, Kinzaki's expression fell and Shuji tried to comfort her, until Reina suddenly snapped that she didn't care if Kai was a traitor and she'd burn him alive if she ever found him. Kinzaki was devastated. All she could think was why Kai hadn't taken her with him.
The story then shifted to the jungle where the hero candidates, knights, and guards marched deeper through the terrain. After 2 days of non-stop travel with no enemy encounters, the group was getting restless until Arashi abruptly stopped, sensing something. At the same moment, Hinoshi complained about being tired, but Mari shut her down. They had just eaten and resting wasn't an option. Arashi then announced there was a magical beast nearby. A knight rushed in, yelling at them for stopping without orders. Shuji tried to explain, but the knight dismissed him, and that's when Arashi snapped, grabbing the knight by the neck, furious at being talked down to. Before the situation could explode further, something lunged at Arashi from the bushes, forcing him to release the knight. A creature with a rabbit-like face and razor-sharp weaponized limbs appeared. The guards panicked. Sharp rabbits were fast, aggressive, and deadly. Before the guards could react, the sharp rabbits swarmed them, knocking weapons out of their hands. One guard was seconds from death when a massive burst of flame incinerated the attacking rabbit. It was Arashi unleashing his power. He told the guards to stay out of the way and then proceeded to wipe out every sharp rabbit in the area one after another. The students were stunned. His power was overwhelmingly destructive, much stronger than anything they'd seen in training. But Arashi wasn't proud at all. He was frustrated. No matter how strong he got, Aragi Kai still overshadowed him. The image of Kai holding a gun to Leonora's head replayed in his mind. Arashi hated how Kai had never shown fear of him, never even acknowledged him as a threat. It proved to Arashi that Kai was stronger even before gaining powers. The thought infuriated him. Shuji snapped him out of it, asking why he looked irritated. Arashi brushed it off, saying he simply hated being ordered around by someone weak. Soon after, the group reached Fort Truss on the western border of the Diggerist Holy Kingdom. Captain Amelia of the Holy Knights introduced herself as the commander stationed there. When Heinrich asked what happened to the previous watch captain, Amelia casually explained he had died a week earlier, shocking the hero candidates. Before Amelia could finish her welcome speech, guards suddenly screamed that the Demon King's army was attacking. Amelia, surprisingly cheerful, told them there would be no resting tonight and that she expected great things from them. Shuji immediately ordered the hero candidates to prepare for battle. Arashi stepped forward, looking more determined than ever. The alarm bells rang through the fort as guards spotted the massive number of monsters approaching. Max was stunned. There were far more than anyone expected. Heinrich ordered his units to start firing immediately to thin the monsters out before they reached the walls. Arrows, fireballs, and spells rained down, but the monsters just kept advancing. Their mission was simple: wipe out every human in their path. Shuji was shocked at how they continued moving even after taking multiple hits, but Amelia explained that monsters on the front lines wouldn't fall so easily. Amelia warned all the hero candidates not to underestimate the monsters' strength or stamina. Humans were naturally weaker, and the Demon King's army fought with brutal endurance. Mijiji, still tense, asked Amelia what their next move was. She told him to follow Heinrich's commands while she personally led the Fourth Order Knights into the chaos. Heinrich added that he was about to give the same order, because some people had already rushed straight into battle. Mijiji didn't understand until Reina clarified. Arashi and his group were already down there fighting. Stunned, Mijiji had to hear it twice. As the smoke on the battlefield cleared, the monsters noticed Arashi's group standing directly in front of them, fearlessly challenging the entire demonic assault. The monsters ridiculed them, calling them fools running straight toward death, but Arashi didn't care. Demon, monster, whatever they were, he planned to wipe them out. Meanwhile, inside the fort, monsters broke through part of the outer wall. One lunged at a guard, but Mijiji intervened, blocking the attack and countering with a sword extend strike that instantly killed it. That moment lit something in him. His strength was rising, his confidence surged. He rallied everyone, telling them they could win this battle, and the hero candidates responded with renewed fighting spirit. Mijiji reminded himself that he couldn't hesitate anymore. Leadership meant standing firm. He remembered Kai teaching him the consequences of being naive. With that, Hashimoto urged everyone to stop watching and jump into battle. Powers ignited across the field. Nagus unleashed his special attacks. Kinzaki used domination to restrain monsters, and the candidates tore through the Demon King's army. The guards were speechless as they watched the students overwhelm the enemy. Heinrich quickly ordered the guards to support the candidates with ranged cover, allowing them to push even harder. The battle raged in a brutal clash of steel and magic until finally, victory. Amelia shouted the win with excitement, and the guards erupted into cheers. As the sun dipped behind the battlefield, Shuji stood quietly, lost in thought. Heinrich approached, asking how his first major battle felt. Shuji admitted it was overwhelming, the scale made giving precise orders difficult. Heinrich acknowledged the effort, praising both Shuji and the candidates, but warned them the enemies they fought today were mid-tier at best. High-ranking demons were far more powerful. Shuji took the warning seriously. The scene shifted to the demon den, where a monster reported its failure to one of the demon king's 4 heavenly kings, Stonga. Stonga was furious. Meanwhile, Kai moved through the great forest of Isekai'd. He was close to reaching the elf sage and could feel the journey nearing its end. But suddenly, tongues lashed toward him from the shadows. He barely dodged the attacks, stunned by their insane speed. When he scanned his surroundings, his judgment skill identified them: tongue baboons, new magical beasts roaming the forest. Kai checked their stats and immediately realized they weren't a threat. The tongue baboons attacked again, but Kai moved like water, dodging effortlessly. When they closed in with another barrage of absurdly fast tongue strikes, Kai leaped away with ease, calmly reading their movements. Aragi Kai stopped playing around. The moment one of the tongue baboons struck again, he drew his knife and sliced straight through its tongue. The creature shrieked, stunned that anyone could cut something so flexible and fast. Kai didn't stop. He severed the tongue completely with clean, ruthless cuts. The baboon tried to counter with its tail, but the swing was painfully slow. Kai dodged effortlessly and dropped the creature in an instant. The rest of the baboons froze, completely unsure what to do now that their strongest attacks were useless. Kai, irritated more than anything else, practically invited them to try again. A short while later, every tongue baboon lay defeated on the forest floor. But now stronger magical beasts were starting to appear. Kai realized he was either nearing Demon King territory, or he was simply deep enough into the wild that humans rarely came this far. Either way, he'd have to stay alert. Powerful creatures lived out here, ones no adventurer had ever touched. Thankfully, his appraisal skill let him scout threats before they got too close. Eventually, Kai reached Mount Yurugano, a natural barrier that slowed the Demon King's army. At its highest point stood Reaper Wolf Mountain, the rumored home of the sage Elbanacaret. Kai remembered hearing there should be a small village at its base. But when he arrived, the sight stunned him. The entire village was burning. Monsters were swarming through the flames. Kai perched on a rooftop, hidden, analyzing the scene. This area was supposed to be far from battlefronts. If monsters were here, then the Demon King's army had moved much faster than expected. The demon commander Hector stood among the chaos. His troops asked if they should kill the remaining humans, but Hector stopped them. He wanted the humans enslaved, not slaughtered. He then demanded updates on the sage. One monster confirmed the sage lived at the very top of Reaper Wolf Mountain. That irritated Hector. The intel had been correct after all, and their mission just got more complicated. Hector ordered the army to rest in the village for the night. Tomorrow they would climb the mountain. But some monsters grew nervous. The mountain was home to Reaper Wolfen, wild beasts too intelligent for mind control magic and too powerful to subdue. Even the Demon King's heavenly kings could tame a dragon, but a wolfen? Impossible. Hector cut the discussion short. They didn't need to tame it, just kill it. The soldiers agreed. Watching silently, Kai checked Hector's stats and discovered the truth. Hector was a high-ranking demon, one of the Demon King's elite. Fighting him head-on right now was suicide. Suddenly, Hector sensed something watching. His instincts were razor-sharp, sharp enough to detect Kai's presence. He quickly sent monsters to sweep the area. Kai held completely still. This was nothing new for him. Hiding from killers was practically a childhood skill. But even with perfect stealth, he knew Hector was dangerous. Among the chaos, Kai spotted captured villagers tied up as prisoners. Saving them would blow his cover and ruin any chance of reaching the sage before the demons. As brutal as it felt, he stayed focused. The sage was the priority for him and for the enemy. Whichever side reached the summit first would gain the advantage. The scene shifted to the peak of Reaper Wolf Mountain. Kai had already climbed far higher than any normal adventurer. The mountain had no proper trails, forcing him to follow faint animal tracks. His vision blurred from thin air and fatigue, and the ground felt unstable under each step. Still, he pressed on carefully. Then he felt a presence. Actually, 3. The faint sounds grew louder, heavier. Kai realized he was face to face with the legendary Reaper Wolfen. They surrounded him in an instant. Right before they struck, Kai leapt into a nearby tree. From above, he got a clear look at them and immediately understood why so many people vanished on this mountain. When he checked their stats, nothing looked extreme, but their teamwork made them terrifying. Suddenly, one wolfen slammed into the tree, snapping it in half. Kai moved just in time, landing lightly and grabbing a random leaf from the ground. He poured mana into it, something Leonora once hinted was possible, and launched it like a blade. The leaf he'd empowered sliced an entire wolfen cleanly in half. The others lunged immediately, but Kai repeated the maneuver, dropping 2 more with mana-charged leaves. Then 5 or 6 wolfen circled him at once. This time, Kai reinforced his entire body with mana. Doing it intentionally made a massive difference. Leonora had once explained that divine protection made people terrible at understanding their own mana flow, and she was right. But without divine protection, Kai controlled his mana naturally. And now, he was ready to push his limits against a pack that didn't know fear. Aragi Kai remembered Leonora's words clearly. Those who relied on divine protection were terrible at controlling mana. That was why she could dominate everyone so easily, and why none of the hero candidates could fight back against her enslavement spell. Kai knew this was a weakness he had to fix. Mana wasn't as overwhelmingly powerful as divine protection, but mastering it was the only way to truly grow in this world and resist enemy magic. So as he continued climbing the deadly mountain, he used every battle with the wolfen as mana control practice. Then Kai sensed a shift in the air and vanished from his spot, reappearing directly in front of the wolfen leader. The other wolves froze, unsure what he was doing. But when the leader attacked, Kai reacted instantly, killing it in a single decisive move. The rest of the pack immediately fled, proof he'd taken out the strongest of them. Kai didn't let them escape, he chased them down alone. Suddenly, something unbelievable happened. A red projection of the wolfen appeared in his vision, showing their next movement before it happened. His skill had evolved, it was predicting the future. Using this 1-second foresight, Kai eliminated 2 more wolves effortlessly. The remaining wolfen trembled, trying to decide whether to fight or run. Kai made the choice for them. This was training now, not survival. He finished the rest quickly. Checking his status afterward, he saw it, divine protection of foresight. Combined with his upgraded appraisal and weak point detection, his entire blessing system had evolved. He finally sat down to rest, but before he could even breathe, a massive presence hit his senses. Something big was nearby, possibly the Demon King's army. Kai immediately abandoned the idea of resting and sprinted toward the disturbance. At the same time, near the mountain's peak, a group of monsters had captured an elf girl named Mare. Hector, the high-ranking demon leading the squad, admired her spirit but made it clear she wasn't going to survive. Just as the monsters lunged to finish her, Kai burst in, grabbing Mare and pulling her out of harm's way. Everyone froze. An unknown human had just appeared at the perfect moment. Kai scanned the area. 10 monsters plus Hector himself. Mare, amazed a human saved her, asked why. Kai simply wanted to know if she was the sage's disciple. When she confirmed it, his goal became simple: save her and gain access to the sage. Hector didn't care who the newcomer was. He gave the order to kill both of them. The monsters charged, but Kai activated foresight. Every attack unfolded in his mind before it happened. With seamless movements, he dodged everything and took down the monsters one by one. The survivors panicked as they watched their allies drop instantly. With foresight active, Kai felt untouchable, though he still wasn't sure how long the skill would last. Realizing brute force wasn't working, Hector ordered his monsters to attack from range. Magic bullets filled the air. Kai braced himself. He knew how deadly magic could be, but Mare intervened, summoning the wind spirit sylph. A powerful gust blasted all the magic attacks away at once. Kai realized she really was a spirit caster, something only elves could do. Furious, Hector joined the battle himself. Kai told Mare to handle the lesser monsters while he faced Hector alone. Mare agreed, but not without complaining that he kept calling her elf instead of her name. Kai corrected himself, sort of. That only annoyed her more. Kai clashed with Hector and instantly understood the difference between normal demons and a high-ranking one. Hector's physical strength was overwhelming. Kai used Hector's own sword to propel himself into the air and followed up with a knife strike. Hector blocked effortlessly. Hector countered and Kai barely dodged thanks to foresight, landing a hit of his own. Hector took damage but barely reacted. The wound was far deeper than it looked, and it made Kai tense up. This demon's durability was insane. Hector mocked him, saying if Kai weren't human, the fight would already be over. Kai knew he was right. Without foresight, he wouldn't have survived the first few seconds. Agari quickly used appraisal to analyze Hector's stats, and the results were brutal. Hector possessed the physical strength and heightened senses expected of a high-ranking demon, and on top of that, he had swordsmanship mastery at level 5. Even with foresight, a direct clash was suicide. Agari needed a completely different approach. Hector launched forward without hesitation. Agari dodged, but Hector's speed was overwhelming. A single glancing strike sliced Agari's hand open, reminding him that future prediction meant nothing if his body couldn't keep up. Their physical gap was massive. Hector mocked him, amused by the idea that Agari could win by running around. That's when Agari pulled out a gun. He fired instantly. Hector reacted with inhuman reflexes and blocked the bullet with his bare hand, yet Agari felt a wave of relief. The bullet had gone through the demon's palm. Hector stared at the injury in disbelief, furious that a strange human device had wounded him. Enraged, he charged again. Agari fired the rest of his bullets, but Hector dodged them all, boasting that he could predict their trajectory. The moment his gun clicked empty, Agari switched to throwing knives. Hector deflected each one with his sword, but then Agari suddenly stopped, sat down calmly, and waited. Hector lunged, confused, right as Agari hurled a bomb. The explosion tore through the mountainside. The entire monster squad was stunned. Mare, watching from the side, could hardly comprehend what she was seeing. A human was overpowering a high-ranking demon, not with magic, but with bizarre weapons and unbelievable combat instincts. But when the smoke cleared, Hector was still alive. Agari stood ready with only a knife. His emergency handgun was out of ammo, his grenade was gone, and Hector was now completely enraged. The demon attacked in a frenzy, but Agari dodged using every ounce of foresight he had. He knew physical attacks alone wouldn't be enough. He activated his weak point detection skill, though it consumed mana at a terrifying rate. He carefully tracked Hector's movements, using foresight to predict the exact moment the demon would overextend. Then he saw it, the weak spot, the neck. He moved first. Just as Hector barreled forward, Agari stepped into his attack, letting the demon's momentum drive Hector's throat directly into his blade. The knife pierced deep. Hector froze, unable to understand how Agari pinpointed the perfect killing strike. His massive body collapsed. The moment Hector hit the ground, Agari dropped too, completely drained. Weak point detection had devoured all his mana. He could barely breathe. The remaining monsters realized Hector was dead. Seeing Agari exhausted and defenseless, they rushed in for the kill. Mare panicked, her spirits were spent, her magic empty, yet she still tried to stand and help him. Before any monster could strike, the entire area erupted in a colossal fire spell. A single blast vaporized every remaining demon on the mountain. Agari instantly knew this wasn't the work of any hero candidate. This was something far stronger. A calm voice apologized for arriving late. Mare's expression lit up, her master had arrived. This was the sage Albana Carrot. Agari immediately understood he had found the very person he'd risked his life to reach. Albana Carrot thanked him for protecting her disciple. Even without appraisal, his mana too low to use it, Agari could tell she was overwhelmingly powerful. Hiding the truth from someone like her would be pointless. Honesty was the only option. She invited him back to her home, saying the bloody battlefield would only attract more beasts. Agari followed, relieved and hopeful. Saving her disciple had clearly earned him the sage's goodwill. Inside the warm wooden home, Mare went to bathe while Agari questioned Albana Carrot about living somewhere so remote. She explained she preferred isolation. Even after retirement, too many people tried to exploit her power. Her home's location ensured only the skilled and the sincere could reach her. Agari then revealed the truth of his identity. He was one of the hero candidates summoned from another world. Albana Carrot wasn't surprised. She explained that Agari's group was actually the third generation of summoned heroes. The kingdom had summoned another group 4 years earlier, and the very first summoning had happened a decade ago. Agari realized Leonora's cryptic hints had been true all along. There had been others before him. Albana Carrot explained that the previous 2 generations of summoned heroes had all attempted to defeat the Demon King, yet every single one of them died. Their failure was so devastating that the summoning ritual itself was sealed forever, never meant to be used again. But Saint Leonora defied that order. She forcibly revived the ritual and summoned a 3rd generation of heroes, Agari's group. Albana had opposed it from the start. Entrusting the fate of a nation to children pulled in from another world was reckless, even if a god endorsed it. Agari then calmly revealed that Leonora was no longer an issue. He had already eliminated her. Without Leonora, there was no one left capable of performing another summoning. Albana was stunned that he had managed to defeat someone so powerful. Agari simply stated that even the strongest person could be defeated with the right method. Albana laughed, calling it poetic justice. Leonora had been undone by her own pawn. Understanding Agari's wish to return home, Albana addressed it directly. Her magic could not send anyone back. The knowledge for return travel had been lost centuries ago, long before summoning became regulated. Agari, disappointed but not surprised, asked if that meant defeating the Demon King was their only hope. Albana said it was likely true unless he sought out the forbidden techniques of demonic arts. That suggestion became Agari's next lead. Albana apologized for being unable to offer more and thanked him again for saving her disciple. She added that with his mindset cold, focused, and dangerous, he very well could defeat the Demon King. The killing intent in Agari's expression made her tense. He was nothing like the naive heroes she'd met in the past. He felt like someone shaped by darkness. Before leaving, Agari gave her a message. If she learned anything useful, she should contact Siren, his new identity, through the Adventurers Guild. Albana then made a bold decision. She wanted her disciple Mare to accompany Agari. When Mare stepped out from her bath, she casually told Agari he should wash up as well, but Albana interrupted with her proposal. Agari should take Mare with him. At first, Agari refused, surprising Mare. Albana simply laughed, explaining that Mare's inherited knowledge would be invaluable to someone unfamiliar with this world. She admitted she had always wanted Mare to travel but feared sending her alone. Agari questioned why Albana didn't travel instead, and she answered honestly. Despite her youthful appearance, her power and time were limited. Mare, however, still hesitated until Agari told her exactly where he was headed, straight into demon territory. The journey would be deadly, and if she slowed him down, he would leave her behind. Albana reminded her disciple that this was her life and her choice. Mare took a moment, then declared she was ready to go with him. Now back in the present, Agari and Mare were deep in the eastern region of the Didora demonic kingdom, what had once been Holy Kingdom territory. Agari remarked on the surprisingly good weather, but Mare corrected him. The harsh climate of true demon lands hadn't started yet. She pointed toward Nutrat, a large city near the Urugano mountain range, explaining that it had fallen to demons and now served as the front line. They would reach it in 2 days. When Agari asked about the villagers who once lived in the region, Mare's voice darkened. Half had been killed, she said, and the rest enslaved for forced labor. Only a few had escaped across the mountains. Agari silently took note. Mare's knowledge was already proving invaluable. Rewinding again to their departure, Agari had warned Mare clearly that demon territory infiltration was dangerous and that she needed to consider her own reasons for joining him. But Mare reminded him gently that although she was a spellcaster, she had still trained her body. When Agari suggested they rest for the night, Mare teased him about abandoning her if she slowed him down. Agari looked genuinely confused and dismissed the idea. He'd never leave her for something like that. Mare, impressed despite herself, began setting up camp. Later, the two sat by a crackling fire beneath the darkening sky. Agari watched Mare eating quietly, then spoke. Their journey ahead would be far more dangerous than anything so far. He would never turn back. He had to find a way home. But he wondered whether Mare truly had a reason strong enough to keep going with him into the heart of demon territory. Agari asked Mare whether Isekai'd had been telling the truth and what her real reason was for joining him. Mare admitted it wasn't easy to explain. She revealed that she had lost everything. Her elven village had been massacred by the Demon King's army. Agari was shocked, assuming the war was only between humans and monsters, but Mare explained that those distinctions didn't matter. The demons simply crushed anyone in their path. Her father, mother, and little brother were all killed. Her father had died buying her enough time to escape. She had been helpless back then, left for dead until Isekai'd found her and took her in as her disciple. Agari cut her off, explaining he didn't want her tragic story, he wanted her purpose. Mare's eyes hardened. She declared she became a spellcaster for one reason: revenge. Every spell she learned and every hour of training she endured over the past 10 years had been for the sole purpose of killing the demon who destroyed her family. That demon, she said, was Wimberg, the Heavenly King of Wind, one of the Demon King's elite 4 Heavenly Kings. Agari realized Mare had joined him because he was heading in the same direction as her target.
Mare admitted she didn't fully understand why her master allowed her to leave after meeting Agari, but Agari understood immediately. Isekai'd feared that Mare, driven by revenge, would recklessly throw her life away if she traveled alone. With someone like Agari, she had a better chance of surviving long enough to fulfill her goal. Mare apologized for getting emotional and promised she wouldn't drag Agari into her personal vendetta. Agari told her to save her strength. They had a long journey ahead.
Mare set up wind spirits to keep watch and soon fell asleep, but Agari remained awake, thinking about the 4 Heavenly Kings and the enormous threat ahead. Meanwhile, back at the Holy Kingdom's fort, commanders gathered to discuss a counteroffensive. With the hero candidates available, officials believed it was finally time to strike. Emilia proposed retaking Fort Eris, a former holy fortress now used as a major demon stronghold. Recapturing it would force the demon army to retreat. Hinrich, however, argued that they had only been defending until now and launching an attack suddenly was reckless. But the officials pointed out that with hero candidates under his command, hesitation was unacceptable. Emilia added that the demons might still be underestimating them, giving them an advantage. After the meeting, Hinrich, Mijiji, and Hashimoto Mari stepped out, discussing the plan. Hinrich admitted he disliked the strategy but couldn't oppose orders from above. Mijiji felt uneasy as well, but acknowledged that attacking during the enemy's recovery period might be their best chance. Still, Hinrich warned them not to rely too heavily on the candidates' power. They needed to rest. Tomorrow would be brutal. The next day, the army gathered near Fort Eris. Nagase questioned why they were attacking in daylight, but Hinrich explained demons had perfect night vision, making nighttime assaults suicidal. Mijiji outlined their objective: defeat the monster leader, likely a high-ranking demon. He would lead the charge. If they became separated, the others should delay the enemy or retreat. A messenger arrived. The main force was ready. Hinrich gave the order and the assault began. Mijiji and the hero candidates charged directly into the fort. Emilia commanded the troops to annihilate the demons. Far away, Stone Gaia, one of the Demon King's 4 Heavenly Kings, observed the battle with growing interest. Inside the tower, Hinrich and several candidates confronted a group of monsters. Mijiji eliminated them instantly. Hinrich warned him to stay alert. The true leader was likely deeper inside. Suddenly, monsters ambushed from both sides, surrounding them. The hero candidates looked to Mijiji for direction, and Hinrich ordered them to keep pushing toward the tower's hall. Nagase stepped forward with confidence, blasting through the monsters blocking their path. With the way cleared, the group forced open the massive door leading to the main chamber, but the moment it swung open, everyone froze. A humanoid figure stood inside, motionless, ominous, and radiating overwhelming presence. The room fell silent as the candidates' nerves tightened. They had no idea what they were seeing, but one thing was certain: this was no ordinary monster. It had to be the leader. The figure standing before the hero candidates finally introduced himself as Stone Gaia, one of the Demon King's 4 heavenly kings. The pressure radiating from him was overwhelming. Even Kakiren and Hashimoto Mari immediately stiffened, and Mijiji himself felt a cold chill run down his spine. Stone Gaia casually drew his sword, issuing a silent challenge. Mijiji ordered everyone to prepare, trying to muster his own courage, knowing that if they lost here, all the frontline soldiers' sacrifices would be meaningless. But instead of attacking, Stone Gaia simply sat down and placed his hand against the floor. An enormous orange magic circle erupted beneath him, and the ground trembled violently. In an instant, countless golems made of dirt and stone rose from the earth. Stone Gaia commanded them to wipe out the hero candidates, and the battle exploded immediately. Narumi Yashia used his nature powers to slice through golems with razor-sharp leaves. Arashi Shunshuk blasted through them with explosive flames, mocking their slow movements. But Stone Gaia then activated another spell. All the shattered golems began regenerating again, returning to full form as if nothing had happened. The candidates were stunned. Their attacks were being erased instantly. Kakiren tried to take control of some golems through domination magic. And while it worked, the moment another candidate attacked those controlled golems, they retaliated. The others continued smashing them apart only to watch them reform again seconds later. Realizing this loop would never end, Narumi remembered a common tactic from manga. If summoned creatures regenerate indefinitely, the only solution is to defeat the summoner. He told Mijiji and Arashi to focus on Stone Gaia while the rest held the golems back. Mijiji understood immediately. He and Arashi charged straight at Stone Gaia. But Stone Gaia warned them through a cold smile that they were underestimating him. He summoned a barrage of stones from the ground that relentlessly pursued Mijiji no matter where he dodged. One finally struck him, sending him tumbling. The candidates panicked, but Mijiji assured them he was fine because being hit was part of the plan. His fall distracted Stone Gaia just long enough for Arashi to sneak behind him and unleash a massive flame-powered punch. Everyone held their breath, thinking Arashi had done the impossible, but when the smoke cleared, the target was merely a reinforced wall of dust and clay. Before Arashi could react, the wall itself counterattacked, slamming into his stomach and knocking him out instantly. Stone Gaia laughed, mocking the hero candidates for believing they had a chance. While this battle raged, Aragi Kai and Mayor had finally reached the fallen city of Neutrat. To avoid detection, Kai led them through the underground sewer system, where only a dim fire spell lit their way through the foul darkness. Mayor complained about the horrible smell, but Kai was unfazed. He explained that the demon's night vision made above-ground infiltration too risky, especially in a frontline city like Neutrat where security was tight. Once they finally emerged from the tunnels, both of them reeking, Kai sensed danger approaching. They hid inside a barrel just as 2 demon guards passed by, grumbling about being assigned to watch over the witch, the demon princess who ruled Neutrat. When the demons left, Kai and Mayor slipped out of hiding. Kai wondered what kind of authority this witch held, and Mayor explained she was known as the Witch of Space, the princess of the Demon Kingdom, and the ruler of this entire city. Before they left, the sage Elbanacaret had told Kai that the Witch of Space might be the only one capable of granting his wish to return home. So now, their mission was to find her, but without starting a suicidal fight. As a professional assassin, Kai intended to gather intelligence quietly, and Mayor vowed to follow his orders without slowing him down. Neutrat, once a human settlement, was now a fully occupied demon stronghold, a base where monsters regrouped, planned attacks, and awaited new orders. Walking deeper into the fallen city, Kai and Mayor continued observing the demons' daily routines. Demon soldiers lounged around, joked with each other, and even got drunk in broad daylight, using abandoned houses as casual hangouts. Mayor found the scene strangely boring. She had imagined demons constantly scheming or patrolling, but instead they acted almost like normal humans. Kai reminded her that any intelligent species would naturally develop similar lifestyles. But Neutrat's calm surface didn't last long. Soon they spotted the former human residents, now slaves forced into rebuilding the demon-controlled city. The demons treated them brutally, beating them for entertainment whenever they felt bored. Even though Mayor knew demons enslaved humans, seeing the cruelty with her own eyes made her tense with anger. Before Kai could calm her, a completely new presence appeared. A soft, childish voice echoed behind them, asking if they weren't demons. Kai's instincts roared. He hadn't sensed the newcomer at all. A young girl with crimson eyes, elegant clothing, and 2 dark horns stood casually watching them. Startled, Kai pulled out a throwing knife, but the girl calmly assured him she wasn't here to fight. Still suspicious, Kai demanded her identity. She explained she had been observing them ever since they broke through her detection barrier, a barrier so subtle neither Kai nor Mayor had sensed it. With her mastery of space magic, nothing inside her city went unnoticed. Kai used appraisal and everything instantly aligned. Her name was Isabel Dora, the 5th princess of the Demon Kingdom, chosen by an evil god, a master of space magic and overwhelmingly powerful. She explained that unless they cooperated, she could simply order her army to seize them. Negotiation was the only option, and Kai knew it. He spent hours explaining everything: the summoning, the corrupted sainthood, the betrayal, and the impossible task of returning home. To his shock, Isekai'd finally revealed that sending him back was indeed possible with demonic space magic. But the spell required one critical component: the exact coordinates of his world. Without them, it was like firing an arrow into an infinite multiverse. There were countless parallel worlds and no way to identify which one was Earth. Even worse, she explained that his divine protection acted as a barrier, preventing any magic, even demonic magic, from transporting him home until the god's mission was complete. Only after defeating the Demon King would the divine restriction lift. Kai didn't say anything aloud, but Isekai'd could read the decision in his eyes. When Mayor finally asked why a demon princess was being so cooperative, Isekai'd casually tore open a portal in space. She explained that even within the Demon Kingdom, political factions existed, and helping them simply aligned with her own interests for now. Then, without warning, she stepped through the spatial rift. Before vanishing, she left them with a chilling warning: leaving her city alive wouldn't be easy. The portal closed, and with that, the Witch of Space disappeared, leaving Kai and Mayor alone in the heart of enemy territory and with their biggest lead yet. But that lead might just be a trap. With their cover blown, how are they supposed to escape a city crawling with demons? And can they really trust the Witch of Space? Subscribe and turn on notifications for part 2 because the real hunt begins right now.